Hi, this is Bob from Turbot. If you're looking for a quick demo of Turbot Guardrails features, you're in the right spot. In this demo, we're going to show how you can use Turbot Guardrails to continuously assess Azure for CIS recommendations. One of the benefits of using guardrails to assess for CIS benchmarks is that it continuously evaluates the posture of your resources as new Azure resources are created, Azure resources are updated. Guardrails will evaluate for CIS compliance in real time. To get started with your CIS benchmarks in your Guardrails workspace, you would have installed the CIS mod and enabled the policies for the assessments across your subscriptions. And once you have that enabled, you can head over to the controls page. You can then browse to your Azure controls. And right alongside the rest of your guardrail controls, there'll be a CIS, in this case, version 2.0 benchmark suite of controls. You can click into there, and now you can see the entire benchmark and how well you're adhering to that, in this case, across all of your subscriptions. You can drill in further to the subsection. So here I'm drilling into the storage accounts, look at the individual recommendations. So I'm going to click into 3.1, which looks at storage accounts, whether or not you have the secure transfer required configuration enabled. You can click that further, and then you can look at each storage account that's applicable and whether or not it's adhering to that recommendation. So here I have a number of storage accounts that are meeting this requirement and not meeting this requirement. Now, similar to other Turbot guardrails and policy settings, you can make exceptions to the rule. So in this case, if I had Acme Demo AZ3 storage account, and I no longer wanted to assess whether that was meeting this benchmark recommendation, I can click into it, go to the policies, and instead of it automatically inheriting that I want to evaluate this for CIS, I could specifically break that inheritance across anywhere in the hierarchy here. So on this particular resource, I could set the policy to skip. I could do so whether it expires or not. So in this case, I'll set it to expire within 30 days. And then I can hit create, which is now going to break that inheritance. It's going to make an exception that's time-based, that this particular Azure storage account no longer is being evaluated for CIS. So if I go back, now I'll actually see this particular storage account is no longer being assessed. It's in a skip state from alarm control, and the rest are still in alarm while the others are still meeting the recommendation. Like I mentioned earlier, guardrails can assess these Azure resources, whether it's a new creation or an update to one. What I'm going to do is going to show you what that looks like in real time. In the Azure portal, I'm going to go and create a storage account. And so here I'll create an Acme Demo AZ3 storage account, or AZ4. And then on the next one, I'm just going to turn off one of these defaults. So this is that secure transfer being enabled, so being required. And then I'll just hit create. Now, even though Azure does set that as the default, one of your engineers or developers might accidentally turn it off, or while they're maybe deploying this through Terraform or through an API or the Azure CLI, may forget to actually enable that configuration. Now we'll wait for Azure to finish the deployment here. Okay, great. Now it's complete. Now, when I go back into Turbot Guardrails, that resource is already created. So let me do a refresh. Yeah, great. So now that Acme Demo AZ4 was picked up in the Turbot Guardrail CMDB and then instantly evaluated for section 3.1. And so in this case, because we did not have it enabled, Turbot Guardrails then alarmed that it was an issue. Now, these alerts come through the Turbot Guardrails console. You can also query them out through the API, and then you can also stream them out or subscribe to them for alerts, whether through email, Microsoft Teams, Slack, or any other endpoint. And so in this example, this particular alarm would actually have notified out into my Slack workspace. And so here I have a number of alarms that had kicked off. In my earlier demos, I had these Acme Demo 2 and 3 alarm, as well as Acme Demo AZ4. Now, these notifications are great to push to your team where they're collaborating, where they're working. So whether in Teams or in Slack, there's direct links to get to that resource. It gives them controls that if they want to set policies to actually enforce that encryption, they can do so. So for example, if I wanted to set encryption on this particular resource, I can choose to enforce it using other Turbot Guardrail policies to then enforce encryption in transit on this particular resource. Here, I just use Turbot guardrails to do so, and then it will automatically fix that resource. Okay, so now that we set this policy, we can go back to the CIS benchmark. And now we're going to see that this is now applied and set. So Acme Demo 4, guardrail policy had been applied. Now then guardrails then reevaluated those configurations, and now it's meeting that CIS posture for section 3.1. If you're interested in getting started with these new benchmarks and controls, reach out to us at turbot.com/start.